Hey guys, Michelle here from Michelle's Party Planet. Today's video is a comparison of the new Cricut Maker 3 and the Cricut Maker. So let's get started. Full disclosure, the Maker 3 was sent to me by Cricut to compare it with my Maker. So all opinions are my own, but it is a sponsored video. With the holidays just around the corner, my hope for this video is that it will assist you in deciding which Maker is best for you if you're in the market for a new machine. So I will be going over the main features of both machines, and I'll give you my opinion at the very end. Right off the bat, as you can notice, the Cricut Maker 3 is a different color. It's like a light blue, and I have the original Cricut Maker, which came in the champagne, but it's also available in different colors. So right now the Cricut Maker 3 is only available in this blue, a real pretty blue color. So that's the initial difference right off the bat. Both machines cut the same number of different kind of materials. They both do over 300 materials, and both machines also can use all the Maker blades that are available. So there's no change in the actual capability. Overall, the Cricut Maker has some enhancements, and I'll go over that with you shortly. Okay, to start off, they both open the same way, just by lifting the lid. Both of them have the canal here that you can place your phone or your iPad right here. The buttons are very similar. The biggest difference between these four buttons is on the Maker 3, it has a play button as opposed to the traditional Cricut emblem on the Maker. Okay, both machines have an area to store your tools. And the actual housing for the blades looks very similar on both. They are both labeled A and B, and the Cricut Maker 3 indicates that it is a Cricut Maker 3 right here on the housing, as opposed to this just says Cricut Adaptive Tool System. Just a minor change. Overall, the machines are very similar. You can see that the Maker 3 is larger than the Maker. It is a little bit taller, and it is a little bit heavier, and I believe it's a little bit longer. But overall, it's very similar. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test the Cricut Maker 3 against the Cricut Maker. The Cricut Maker 3, it has the capability of using smart vinyl, and smart vinyl is a vinyl that Cricut has created that allows you to cut without a mat. And this is only available for the Cricut Explorer 3 series and the Cricut Maker 3 series. To give you an idea of what products are available with the Cricut Maker 3, as far as the smart products are concerned, you can have smart stencil, smart iron-on, regular smart vinyl, and also removable and permanent vinyl, just to name a few. You can also use the traditional Cricut mats with both machines, and all the infusible ink, iron-on, and regular vinyl that you can use with the Maker, you can use with the Cricut Maker 3. To go over the highlights of Cricut Maker 3, I want to show you an accessory that's available. It's not necessary to use with the Cricut Maker 3, but it's one of my favorite accessories that's available. It's to be used with the smart vinyl that I mentioned earlier. And this is called the Cricut Roll Holder. And the Cricut Roll Holder, it has grooves on the back that line up with the grooves here that's also on the Cricut Explorer 3. So you could use this Cricut holder on both machines. As opposed to using it on the Cricut Maker, you cannot use it on that machine. So what you would do is you would line it up, the grooves lined up nicely on the machine, and then what you'll do is you put your roll of vinyl here, and then it also has a built-in cutter that allows you to cut the roll. So I'll just demonstrate that pretty quickly, since we will be using the smart iron-on on one of my tests. This is the smart iron-on. It comes in a roll like this. As you can see, there's nothing else to it. You can use it on a mat, but you can also use it without a mat, and that's the benefit of smart vinyl products. So what you would do is just feed it through the holder, and then you're going to want to make sure that you catch the vinyl underneath the rollers. Okay, now I'm going to just set up machines side by side and we're going to look at them. I'm going to send them a graphic to both machines using iron-on. I'm going to use the Cricut Maker with the traditional Cricut matte and iron-on vinyl, and I'm going to go ahead and use this Cricut Maker 3 as set up with the smart vinyl. So I'll be right back. Okay, I was able to get both machines in the shot, and hopefully we'll be able to evaluate the speed on both machines appropriately. I was using my Cricut Maker for another project earlier, so I'm just fixing the rollers here, and you can do that with both the Cricut Maker 3 and the Cricut Maker. If you're using products like faux leather or genuine leather or aluminum, you're going to want to use, you're going to want to move over the white rollers. That way they're not indenting your materials. And you can do that on both machines. Both machines come standard with the fine point blade. Both makers work with the Cricut Design Space in the same way. As you create your design and send it to your machine, you use Cricut Design Space to select what material you're going to be using for your project. They both work the same way, so nothing's different there. So for the Cricut Maker 3, I'm selecting the Smart Iron-On, and for this project we'll use the fine point blade. And then for the Maker, I am using a 12 by 12 inch mat, and I'm mirroring it on both machines. And then I'm selecting the Cricut iron-on. Okay, I'll be using the standard grip mat for the Cricut Maker, and as I mentioned, the Cricut iron-on. I now have to cut down the vinyl to fit the mat, and as opposed to me just loading the smart vinyl into the machine as I did earlier, which was very fast. So that's one difference that's notable. The iron-on, you do want to make sure that you have this shiny side down. Another notable difference between the vinyls is you'll notice that the smart vinyl has a thicker backing. That's because you're not using a mat, so it has a thicker transfer paper or carrier sheet as opposed to the thinner version on the regular iron-on. So that's something that you'll notice when you compare the two. Okay, so now I'm going to load both machines at the same time. Okay, as you can see, as I loaded the materials into the machine, the Cricut Maker actually measured the length of the vinyl that's loaded to make sure it's large enough for the project that we're making today. And the Cricut Maker just went into its ready position. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push each button, each start button at the same time, and we'll just see which one creates the project fastest. complete with the project. It's just waiting for me to cut the vinyl and eject the vinyl. So right now we'll just wait for the Cricut Maker. Okay, the Cricut Maker is now done and it's ready to be ejected. But as I mentioned with the roll holder, we're going to want to go ahead and cut the roll before you eject the material out of the machine. That way it cuts it right at the end of the design and you don't have to bring out your scissors to do that. So just do that by sliding the blade over to the right. And as you can see, it's a straight edge, and now that is ready to be ejected. Okay, obviously the Cricut Maker was very fast and was able to create that design very quickly. Now let's just compare the cuts. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that design on that mat just for comparison purposes so I can keep them separated. So as you can see, they both cut very well. The major difference obviously is the material and ease of use as far as the Maker 3 is concerned when using smart vinyl. Feeding the vinyl in the machine is quicker in my opinion than using a mat, but you can do it both ways on the Cricut Maker 3. Cricut Maker, you are limited to just using a mat. So that's the major difference. The speed was obvious. The Cricut Maker 3 is much faster cutting vinyl, and it's very precise. They both are very precise, so it's really, as far as the cut's concerned, they're spot on identical as far as I can see. So that's the first test. Now we'll move on to creating some cards using the new card mat on both machines. Cricut has come out with a card mat that allows you to create cards 4 at a time using one of the larger machines. Traditionally, you were able to use the cards on the Joy or create cards on the Joy, but now with the card mat, you can have the same kind of feature that you did on the Joy with the larger machines. So I have 2 card mats here that I'm going to go ahead and load with some insert cards. These are Cricut insert cards, and I'm going to go ahead and load them up, and then we'll send the design to the machine. Insert cards come with envelopes, inserts, and actual cards. So we're going to be using this pretty gold metallic for the back of the card to reveal the design, and we're going to actually be cutting on the manila or vanilla looking color cards. Okay, so the card mat comes with a protective sleeve on top. We're going to go ahead and remove that because this top part is sticky. What you're going to do is once you remove that, you can lift up this clear mat and put your card underneath it, one part underneath and the other part on top, and this will allow the machine to cut just the top layer, and it protects the back side. Then just go ahead and put that in, make sure it's lined up. We are using the R20 card, and so it lines up right there. It tells you what size of card you're using, and I already have that set up in Cricut Design Space. So go ahead and do the same thing for this, and you don't have to do all 4 at the same time. You can just do 1 card at a time. You can also cut different designs at once. So if you wanted 4 different cards, you could create 4 different cards on your canvas in Cricut Design Space. So now we're going to go ahead and put a card mat into each machine. And for this design, we do need to load a 0.4 black pen. And these are the Cricut pens. This is a 0.4 tip black pen. We're going to go ahead and load it into the A slot for both machines. Make sure it snaps in there. There we go. Okay, so now that we have the pen loaded, we know that they can actually draw and cut at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and load up the mats into each machine. Cricut Design Space will let you know that you need to move the star wheels to the center of the railing, which will be right here in the middle of the column of the card. So we want to move all of the star wheels right here into the center of the card. So usually I would have to move them over to the right, out of the way, but so that this works properly, we want to make sure all the star wheels are in the center. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just press the start buttons on both machines and we'll see which one is the fastest. Obviously the Cricut Maker has a head start, Cricut Maker 3 I mean. It's definitely getting most of the design done ahead of time. The Cricut Maker 3 is complete with the drawing portion of this project. Now it's going to go ahead and start cutting it. And the Cricut Maker is still finishing up its design. Cricut Maker 3 is completely done with the project, while the Cricut Maker is still still working on it. So obviously Cricut Maker 3 wins this round again because it's complete faster as it promises. So let's check out the difference in the cuts to see if one is more crisp than the other. And then we'll just go ahead and eject both mats. Here we go. As you can see, it's an identical project. The lines look very similar, very precise drawings on both projects. So let's go ahead and remove the cards from the card mats. Okay, so I have removed both cards from the mats. This one on the right hand side is from the Cricut Maker 3, the left is from the Cricut Maker. I'm going to go ahead and add the inserts that come with the cards. These real pretty gold inserts. And that way we can look at the design better. It's a really cute design. It says, "Hey, beautiful." Very crisp cut, and the drawing is very clear. So I expect the same from Cricut Maker 3. And so far, my opinion is that they cut identically. Its speed is the big difference. Okay, before we go on to the next project, I just wanted to kind of go over some more details. Cricut also makes smart paper sticker cardstock. This is a really nice product. It's a cardstock that has adhesive backing, and it's a smart sticker, a smart product, so that you do not need a mat. So this is a great project to use on the Cricut Maker 3 and the Cricut Explorer 3. It's a great material to use on those two machines, I mean. So that's something that you need to consider as well when you're deciding between the Maker series and the Maker 3. But to go over some of the other things, you are still able to cut heavy chipboard, wood veneers, the Cricut Faux suedes, the faux leathers, and as always, the printable sticker papers and printable vinyl that is available through Cricut. So these are just a few of the things that you can cut with both machines. Some you can also do with the Explorer without having to upgrade to a Maker. But that's just an example of some of the 300 different types of materials you can use with both machines, with the exception of the smart products, the smart vinyl, the smart paper, and smart stencil. Anything that has smart in the beginning of the brand name or product name, those are going to be exclusively for the Maker 3 and the Explorer 3. Okay. So now the next project, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use one of those materials that I described, and we're going to be using the Cricut Faux leather. It is a paper thin material, so we won't need to change out any kind of blades, but we want to see how it works. Just a different material that you might be using more often, as opposed to some of these other materials that you may use occasionally. I'm trying to show you ones that you'll use on a daily basis. Okay, for the Cricut Faux leather, we're going to need to use a mat for both. I only have a small piece here because I did use it for another project, but all I'm going to do is just cut a simple image from Cricut Design Space, and we're just going to time it like we did the last couple projects. Okay, I'm using a strong grip mat, and I'm going to go ahead and use my brayer just to make sure it stays in place. For the paper thin faux leather from Cricut, you don't need to change out your blade. You just need to move your rollers out of the way for the material, and you can use your fine point blade. Okay. Now I'm going to put the pressure to more on both, just because I want to show you what that does. Okay. All right, now that we have the design ready to go on both machines, we're going to load both mats at the same time. Okay, both lights are blinking. And then we're going to go ahead and press go. The Cricut Maker 3 is already done with the design. It did 2 whole passes, and now the Cricut Maker is complete. So again, the Cricut Maker 3 is faster, as Cricut claims. So we can obviously see that on all 3 projects that were created so far. Features are very similar. The speed is the big difference. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how this turned out. Like I said, this is the paper thin faux leather. We didn't need to change any type of blade or anything. This is something you can do on your maker. So here we have 2 black hearts, and they look identical. The cut is very precise. No problems. I used extra pressure or more pressure on both, and they both came out great. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one again, because I want to make sure I know which one is from the Cricut Maker 3. And again, very quick. Just a simple design, just to show you one of the capabilities it has. We're basically out of the box, so there was nothing special you had to do. If you have the material, you just can cut all kinds of things with basic materials that you may have in your craft room already. Okay, that concludes the side-by-side speed test. Just to summarize, we did the iron-on vinyl. We used smart vinyl on the Cricut Maker 3, and we used regular everyday iron-on vinyl with a mat on the Cricut Maker. And the Cricut Maker 3 was very fast, and it was easier to load with the smart vinyl and the roll holder. Again, that roll holder is sold separately, but it's not necessary to have. It's just a nice feature or a nice accessory to have to accompany your Cricut Maker 3 or your Cricut Explore 3. And then the other project we did was the cards on the new Cricut card mat that allows you to do 4 cards at a time. We did 1 card, and we used the pen feature, the drawing feature on both. Both were very crisp and clear, and cut was nice. Again, the Cricut Maker 3 was faster than the Cricut Maker. And then the last project we just finished was the faux leather simple heart design, just to show you that you don't have to cut out, for certain materials, you don't have to change out your blade. It's faster with the Cricut Maker 3, but very precise on both machines. So, real quick, I just wanted to show you, as I mentioned, there is a smart paper sticker cardstock, one of the smart materials that Cricut has designed specifically to use for the 3 series, the Explorer 3 and the Maker 3, with the idea that you don't need a mat with them. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop this in my machine on the Cricut Maker 3 so you can kind of see how easy it is. One thing to note as well, the smart products are a little larger, which allows you a slightly larger cutting space. So this is slightly larger than it's actually a 13 by 13 instead of our normal 12 by 12 limitation on the mat, or the 12 by 12 mat. So this is a 13 by 13 piece of paper, piece of cardstock that you can just load it into your machine. So I'm going to go ahead and move my star wheels over, since we don't need to worry about them being indenting this type of material. And then I'm just going to cut that heart again. I'm going to cut that heart just so you can see how it works with just the smart paper cardstock. And so what I'm doing is I'm selecting a Cricut Design Space without a mat. And this is used for Cricut Smart Materials only. It reminds you of that. And when you're using the Cricut Maker, or you're using the Explore series, not the 3 but the Explore Air 2, so you're not going to have the question of asking you if you're going to be cutting on a mat or without a mat. it's standard, you're going to be on a mat. But when you upgrade or you buy a Cricut Maker 3 series or a Cricut Explorer 3 series, you'll have more options that allow you to select without a mat. Okay, so now I'm just selecting the sticker paper cardstock as my material. So we're just going to push the button and it's going to cut for me. I'm going to press the cut button as well. It's more of a play button. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And that's it. That literally took a second to cut. That was very fast. I didn't even have to do anything. It just, past series you could have the option of doing a faster cut, but I don't have to do that. The Cricut Maker 3 just is standard. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and peel off the heart from the backing. As you can see, that's a sticker, so I can stick that on into anything that I like. This is great for creating your own stickers for your planners or for your project scrapbooking. So there's so many things that you can do with the sticker cardstock, but this was just kind of a quick demo on that material. It's one of my favorite materials besides the vinyls, so I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so one thing to note is with the Smart Vinyl, it does come in longer lengths. You can get this shorter lengths. This is a 3-foot length of Smart Vinyl, and then this is a 21-foot length of Smart Vinyl. One thing to note is with the Cricut Maker 3 and the Cricut Explorer 3 is you can cut up to 12 feet in one cut. That makes for a very long design. That's a really nice feature. You can put the whole roll, this whole roll, into your roll holder, or if you choose to use it without, and cut one long design for home decor, or if you're making a banner or anything like that for a party, or just some kind of decoration that requires you to create something long. That's a really nice feature that you're not going to have with the standard Cricut Maker, because you're limited to the 12 by 24 mat. So if you're looking to create larger projects, that's definitely something you might want to consider. Like I mentioned earlier, the speed is very impressive. The cut is very impressive. And the ability to be able to use these new materials without a mat is definitely a selling point for me. So it's definitely something you should consider. You should look at the price point. Obviously the Cricut Maker 3 is more expensive than the Cricut Maker. Cricut Maker's first generation. The upside is you can get the Cricut Maker for a really good price right now, and you can get it in different types of colors. There are more colors than just the standard champagne that I have. This Cricut Maker 3 only comes in this color right now. It may later on come out in different colors. I don't know, I'm just guessing. But that's something to consider if you're really one that likes to have a machine to match your workspace. And another feature to consider is just how often are you going to use it? Are you going to use the Cricut Maker for the thicker projects? Are you using it for a small business? Do you need to use a really fast throughput? Then the Cricut Maker 3 is definitely the machine for you. Cricut Maker is a great machine on its own, and it's just really, if speed is important. So it's not that you can definitely create more in less time with the Cricut Maker 3, but it just depends if that price point is worth it to you. And that's it. I hope this video was helpful in your decision-making process, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.